Closing in on that good dance music on my fantasy playlist. Well, actually a mid-tempo dance jam. Let Me Be the One making its debut at number 40 on my fantasy playlist. August 29th, 1987, Expose. Boy, 1987, they were kicking it. It was just a year of those girl groups. I've already mentioned them in a previous video, I believe, but you had Company B, the Cover Girls, yes, and then Expose, Come Go With Me, off to the races, went to number 5 on Billboard's Hot 100, and the absolutely scintillating Point of No Return, the summer of 1987, Memory Lane, paved, studded with golden bricks, an outpouring of passion, warmth, sincerity from the lead singer, Jeanette Dorado, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. It's just, it moves you, boy. It rattles your bones, your heart. And she sings with such zest and joy across a pulsating, a fast-moving, propulsive beat. Point of no return, and she handles the song. I can't put it. I can't put it. I just hear that song in my head going back 35 years. Boy, I tell you, she delivered that. As far as I'm concerned, Point of No Return, that was probably one of her, if not her finest moment, one of her finest moments. Jeanette Dorado, I just got to give her a 5-star review. Her singing on that record. It's like she's singing right to you. It's the joy of consummation. It's the joy of you're right there, a cliffhanger. You're there literally and metaphorically. And it's just a flush of desire, joy, and everything. It's all encapsulated in that record. Point of No Return. And I don't know what else I could say about it. I'm sure something else will come up later. And I'm sure there'll be another reviewer or somebody who could come up with better words. But, boy, I tell you, she knocked it. She knocked it out of the park. But the song, the third single, it was off the album Exposure, Let Me Be the One. The vocals on that song was handled by Joya Bruno. And that went to number 7 on Billboard's Hot 100. The song after that, Seasons Change, went to number 1 on Billboard. We're talking the winter of 87 and 88. And you know, it's kind of strange. I wasn't into that record at the time. But over a period of years, you look back and man, that was really a fine record. That was a nice record. It was, well, anyway, Let Me Be the One by Expose. Well, first and foremost, the Sultan of Freestyle himself, or at least one of the Sultans of Freestyle, the founder of Expose, the brainchild of Expose, the person who wrote their songs, at least initially, his name was Louis Martinet, based in Miami, Cuban-born, producer, freestyle music. He was at the forefront of the so-called freestyle music. And I can't really define it for you except to say that it started in New York City and Philadelphia in the early 80s, maybe late 70s, and some of the early examples of freestyle considered to be freestyle. Oh, the Jam. Remember Planet Rock back in 1982 was an African Bambino or something. It hardly played on the pop stations, unfortunately, maybe a little too radical for the pop stations. Because people listen to that and say, man, what the hell is that, man? Play some Asia and Toto, man. But still, that was one record. That was one hell of a record right there. But commercially speaking, an early example of freestyle music, Let the Music Play by Shannon back in the fall of '83, and then later on jumping into the spearhead of the freestyle music would be groups like Expose, Sweet Sensation, remember Sweet Sensation, Hooked on You, Lisa, Cult Jam, remember that, Lost in Emotion, and there was Head to Toe. Also in 1987 as well, Stevie B, remember Stevie B? Boy, I remember jamming out to Stevie B on my Walkman. Remember the Walkman back in the day, I had a big old red Walkman. It was a real boxy affair, but had some nice headphones and jamming out to a little bit of Stevie B on a radio station special or something. But freestyle music. Now, the original members of Exposé formed around 1984. He wrote, Louis Martinet, he wrote Point of No Return. That would be their first single. He wrote it using a drum machine, a synthesizer, and a live guitar player. Excuse me, apologize for that. My nose tends to run a little bit. And he used a live guitar player and got the three girls to record the song, shopped it. He had an independent record company called Pandera Records, started shopping the demo to various nightclubs in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Really hard to get your song in that area because that was, and I'm sure it still is, a hotbed for dance music back in the day. And sometimes you had to kind of pull out a little green. Well, I think I got 100, 200, 300 here. I'll just put it down in your pocket right there, and maybe if you can throw in my demo, play my demo. But anyway, but the thing about it is, though, he probably didn't have to do that on Point of No Return. The song exploded in the dance clubs in Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Southern Florida. A guy from Arista Records was paying to visit to Miami. His name was Dave German. He heard the record Point of No Return, and he was very impressed. He went to Clive Davis, the head of Arista Records, the legendary, the record mogul Clive Davis. He persuaded him to sign Exposé to the Arista record label. And the Exposé record, Point of No Return, the original version, 1985, went to #1 on the dance charts. Then they started to record the album Exposure, and it splintered. And what happened depends on who you talk to, and depends on what source you're referencing. There's one source that they had a disagreement with the record company. They had a disagreement among themselves. But the bottom line is they left. They split up. They left. And Louis Martinet, he formed a new Exposé, put in new members, including Jeanette Gerardo, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, and Joya Bruno, and Ann Curlis. And they put together Exposure, the album Exposure, that blew up. Top 5, boy, all of those records, 4 singles, right off the bat. Top 10. One of them at the summit of Billboard's Hot 100 by the end of 1987. You can say that 1987 was a good year for Exposé, and they put out several albums after that. Joya, though, 1992, it was discovered they found a benign tumor on her vocal cords, and supposedly she lost her voice. She couldn't sing anymore. And she fought cancer, throat cancer, for several years. She had to, well, bottom line was she had to leave the group. But fortunately, she recovered and rejoined Exposé in 1997. But let's go back to the heady days of 1987 on this fancy playlist of August 29th, 1987. Exposé, Let Me Be the One, making its debut at number 40.